Hey yo, what's happening, everybody? It's your man Dame DNYDC. Two mics up live here Thursday night. Hey, I hope everybody's doing about as good as they can under the current conditions. Pandemic still raging on. Those of us here in Northern Virginia, uh, we struggled through a governor's election and different things going on here. Politics is really crazy out here in the world today. But that's just one side note. Uh, Really that kind of leads into tonight's conversation. A lot of times we talk about mindset and where we are and those things that at times tend to be stumbling blocks uh, that really kind of hinder us. And sometimes we really don't know how or why, or I should say it the other way, why or how to get out of our own way uh, at times, because that seems to be, in my opinion. But we're going to talk with tonight's guest, who can tell us more about the rest of the ways that we can maneuver this minefield to improve ourselves, to better ourselves, to become more confident, to become more powerful. And really, at the end of the day, I want to say achieve the life that so many of us really believe that we're meant to have and meant to live and to lead. So, with that being said, I know there's been times in my life, where I had to look back and acknowledge some of my obstacles, uh, and really try to focus on the present and the future. This gentleman tonight, ladies and gentlemen, who I'm going to go ahead and bring out uh, to the conversation, our brother Jevon Wooden. He is an author, an entrepreneur, a speaker. This brother is the owner and founder of Live Not to Loathe. And all of these things really tie into all of the things that I introduced to you and spoke about. And Javon, if you could just take a few minutes, please give us some background about yourself and really take us into tonight's conversation.
Sure, sure. First of all, thanks for having me on your platform. Love the work you're doing. The intro is fire, by the way. Um,
Appreciate it.
so my work focuses on. I'm a mindset and perception coach. So what that means is I focus on helping people stop stopping themselves pretty much, get over
Hmm.
those limiting beliefs, move past mistakes, forgive themselves so that they can build the confidence, build their self-esteem up, and design the life they don't need a vacation from. i
Mm,
love i love using that tagline because it pretty much means that you know your power now, right? When
hmm.
my clients leave, I want them to not need me. Right?
Mm,
I want them to see their own power and have the tools and the coping mechanisms where they can step forward into their greatness. And when the obstacle does come, they have the ability to pause, relax, and calmly respond intelligently. Instead of
hmm.
responding out of emotion or impulse, they respond intelligently. They take that breath. They use those automated systems that we put in place to allow themselves to have lasting, sustained success.
Mm. And see, the reason why, I talked about certain things in the intro because, you know, I think this is not only a career tool, these are life tools that you're also
These are
talking
life
about.
tools for sure, for
And
sure. I mean, 100%.
I think it's important that we really talk about these things because, like I said, with the pandemic, we're all struggling and we're finding obstacles. I talked about, the elections. It doesn't have to just be here in Northern Virginia, but just the
Mhm.
general election for president. So many of us get worked up over things that we feel like we can't control. And before we get into that, though, I want to ask you, Javon, like, what was it that drove you or motivated you to want to become a mindset, life, and empowerment coach?
So great question, Dame. What motivated me was my own struggles.
Mm,
Right, 17. I would like to say that this journey, I set on this path at 17, not knowing that I was doing so. So at 17, I got locked up and I was facing 7 to 10 years.
wow.
And what happened was my mother and my sister came to visit me in county when I was
Mm,
locked up, and seeing that pain, seeing that the wear and tear of the sleepless nights, seeing all that on their faces, really just made me pray to God. It put me back in touch with God because I had lost
mm,
him, right? And I went back up to my cell that night and I just prayed. I said, God, if you if you give me another shot, if you get me out of this, I will be the servant that I was meant to be.
Wow.
Right. And lo and behold, a couple weeks after that prayer, I was out. I was free. And my charges were dropped and everything. And that was leading me to that path. So I still had a lot to get over, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had these limiting beliefs that I wasn't good enough for certain things, or because
Mm-hmm.
of where I came from and what I looked like, I didn't deserve some things,
Right.
right? So fast forward to 22, I joined the military, and the military really opened my world up. It showed me that there was a lot more outside of Rochester, New York, where I'm from, than
Mm-hmm.
poverty, pain, murder, and all these other negative things. That the
Wow.
world actually has some positivity to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just needed to open my eyes up to that. I needed to focus on the positives instead of the negatives.
Okay.
So that was really metaphoric in my life, because I realized that that's all I was seeing. That's all I focused on. I
Right.
focused on what I didn't have instead of what I did have.
Mm.
And once I made that shift, my life completely changed. And that made me want to do it for other people, right?
Man, that's
Usually, like
powerful.
if I talk to my friends or something like that, they'd be like, "Yo, Jevon, you give great advice. You can motivate people, you give great advice. You should be a motivational speaker." I said, "No, that's not really what I want to do, right?
Right.
Not at least full time." So I found coaching actually in 2017 when I was deployed in Afghanistan.
Mm.
I was just looking. I'm like, man, what can I do with this? I
Wow.
have some downtime. I was doing IT, and I was like, let me search. So I found coaching, and I chose mindset coaching because I really feel like that is the one niche that ties into everything you do. You
Mm.
cannot be successful without having the proper mindset. You know why? Because you wouldn't even realize that you were successful because you never defined it for yourself. Right.
True.
So that's what made me
True.
become the mindset and perception coach.
Man, look, that's an amazing story, first of all. And first of all,
Thank
I want to thank you for your service, first of all. And
you.
as
Thank you.
as a young man of color, and I understand, coming from New York, and I'm originally from New York as well. I understand Rochester and things of that nature. Um, I'm really proud, one, because I have another man who looks like me that can talk
Mhm,
about things that, one, because I really believe this is important for a lot of our men of color to hear and really
yes.
understand this kind of, and tell me if I'm wrong. It gives me a feel as sometimes this could be some type of therapy. It could be a therapeutic
Mhm,
journey in dealing with that, and we don't embrace that in our community. So I want our young men to hear that this is also a way out, but I don't want to not include our sisters too, though.
right,
And
right, yeah,
and do
sure.
you also work with both men and women,
I
through
do,
this journey, correct? Okay, and I just want to
I
make
do.
sure that it's very important that we share that information, and I hope that people, who are watching and hear this, will be able to reach out to you when the show's done and in the future, because that's really important. We don't realize, like you said, the power of the mind. And if you're
Right,
only in your block and you stay on your block and you think that the world is just your block, then you have a problem. And sometimes not until you go around the corner or go in the White Plains, or
yes, sir.
you go across into Jersey or wherever it may be, to realize, yo, the world is really a big place. So thank you for sharing that. And I want to ask too,
My pleasure.
how would you say someone would be able to identify their purpose? Like what would
So
that look like?
purpose, yeah, that's a fantastic question. Purpose is one of those things that you have to, look into yourself. You have to do introspection. One
Mm,
of the first things I always want people to do is take inventory of what they really like. Really ask yourself, like, what is my purpose? Write that down, and then
mm-hmm,
answer the question without censoring yourself. Just write down whatever comes to mind, brain dump it, and
mm,
then ask yourself why you wrote those things, and then put a reason for those, right? And then sometimes, a lot of times, you find that what you define as your own purpose was actually someone else's purpose, right? This is what
mm,
society told you should want to do, right? But
mm-hmm,
when you then, what you say is, okay, what resources do I have that lean towards that? What am I doing now? Am I fulfilled in what I'm doing now? Right? Does it align with my values and beliefs, which you need to identify as well? Because the
mm-hmm,
values and belief system are really what's going to drive you. And that purpose, if it doesn't align, you're not going to have fulfillment, right?
mm-hmm,
And then another thing you want to do is you want to test it. Test those theories. If you wrote it down, you wrote it down for a reason. Test it out, step into it. If you're unfamiliar with it, try to find someone who's doing something similar, right? Get that mentor, get that coach, whatever it is. You never have to do anything by yourself, right? I always
Mm,
recommend going to find someone who's already doing it or someone who can be your guide, right?
mm-hmm.
Every hero needs a guide, right? You
True.
look at all the greats. Every hero
True.
needs a guide. Every superstar has a coach, right? And that's the only way you get to that next level. You just have to have someone with you.
So I'm going to ask then. So like for you, because some of us may, so we hear you, but
Hmm.
like where would you see? Because a lot of us who let's say may not be in a church or
Hmm.
really have a strong network and are really afraid to venture out. You know, where would a good place for them to start? You know, because like you say, if you're stuck in your neighborhood and your partner sitting next to you is doing the same dirt that you are, it's kind of hard to find. Like say, you know, I get it when you say a mentor, but a lot of people may not know where maybe to go looking. I mean, I want to say a church is a good place to go.
Well,
Um,
yeah, that's a fair question. For me, when I was doing my dirt, how it happened was I had to realize I had to become vulnerable, right?
mm,
I had to open myself up to reach out and let people know I needed help. Like if
I
I
feel
have
you.
a like say you're a young man in school, you let your counselor or your teacher know, like, hey, this
Mm-hmm.
is what I think I want to do. Say you are in a church, you talk to the pastor or deacon or whoever else you could talk to. There's always somebody. You
Mm-hmm.
just have to be willing to step out, right, and put yourself in those rooms. You got to stop
Mm.
going to the same places, stop going to the block, right? Instead of going to the
Right.
blocks, go to a nice neighborhood, right?
Right.
Start going to different parks, whatever the case may be. You got to step outside your comfort zone, because that's the only way it's going to come to you,
And
right?
that that
It's going to be
that's
uncomfortable. Growth and purpose is always uncomfortable when you first get it, and you're gonna wonder why it's so hard, right? Why is
mm-hmm.
things so hard for me, right? And that's sometimes that's telling you that you're walking on the right path. You just how bad do you
Mm,
want it, right? And it's
mm.
gonna take some failure. You're gonna fail. You got to get
I
comfortable with
like that.
failure on your
Yep.
journey for purpose, right? We got to
I
understand
like
that
it.
failure is actually a part of success. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
detractor from success.
Man, look, go ahead and preach, bro, because you really hitting it right, and that's really what I was trying to lead to.
Hmm.
Uh, failure is a success because you know through that
Yeah.
trial and tribulation you've learned something, you've gained something that can never be taken from you,
Hmm.
and you can now apply it to the next step in
Yes,
the
sir.
process. And I love what you said. You sometimes you do have to get out your comfort zone. That's
Hmm.
really the only way to succeed, in my opinion. That's what I've found. You know, get outside of that. You know, my people got me,
Right.
and stepping out.
100%.
Yeah, 100%. So I
100%.
appreciate you saying that. So moving forward, then you talked about, and I heard you say beliefs, um, and a couple of things that you said. So, what
Hmm.
role does a person's beliefs play in maybe them identifying or transitioning, let's say, into one's purpose?
Okay, I love that. You got some great questions, man. Dang, wow, you on fire, brother. Um, so, so I always say if and even if you don't, so machines like your car, your engine, and all that stuff, they have something called a governor, right?
Mm-hmm.
The governor regulates the speed at which your vehicle can go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your beliefs and your values are your governor. They will
Mm.
regulate where you're going and what really works for you. And that's why people pleasers have issues, right? They never feel fulfilled because they're not letting that governor dictate where they're going, right? They're just doing
Mm-hmm.
whatever else someone else wants them to do. But your beliefs and values, every goal you set needs to align with those,
Mm-hmm.
because if not, you're going to feel off. And that's because you're doing something that's not fulfilling to you, right? It's not serving you. So now
Mm.
you're depleting yourself instead of filling yourself up. So that's when you know, like, you have to take time. Everything I'm going to say, you got to write it, right? You got to document that. You got to
Mm-hmm.
really take time to say, what are my values, right? And there's an exercise like we use in coaching, therapy, and all that, called the Will of Life. You can literally go online, Google it, and download that, and it'll show you like what are my values: money, family, charity, whatever the case may be.
Okay.
And you just keep that, post that somewhere on your wall, so you have it right in front of you to remind you, like, okay, when I'm goal setting, look at that and say,
Mm.
does this align with who I want to be, not who
Mm-hmm.
I am, right? Because if you're in a bad circumstance that you don't like, you don't want to think like the person you are now. You want to think like the person you are going to be.
Got it. Man, that's powerful right there, man. And again, I like what you say 'cause I think a lot of us lose track, and I'm perfect example because a lot of some of the things that you say sound like my wife. Write it down,
Right.
it's true, because it really does because then you always have something to refer to
Hmm.
cognizantly. It's there, it's there in front of you, it's in the car, wherever it may be. um
Right.
and it speaks to you like you want it, like you said, you want to speak to the person that you're going to become, not the person that
Right.
you are, the person that you were. And man, my wife lives by that. She's got me to it. I'm trying to get better because I'm the worst. I've always been one of those people that I've been blessed to I can read certain things and I have like a photographic memory, so
Oh
I can
man,
kind of. But that's the good.
that's
It's
dope.
good.
I wish.
The good and the bad of it is though it makes you lazy because I can refer to it. But sometimes like when you're
Ah,
in that moment when it is written though and it's in front of you, it does you a whole lot more than having it stored in your mind somewhere. Because when you got a
right,
lot of things going on, you're looking right at it.
right.
It's a
And
constant. It's an instant reminder.
yeah, and also the kinesthetic aspect, the tactile aspect of it, actually writing helps you to remember
Yeah.
things and help you ingrain.
Yeah.
And subconsciously, you wonder why you're starting to work towards it, and you're like, damn,
Yeah.
and then you find it later on in your notes. You're like, yo, I manifested this.
Yeah.
I
So
said
true.
that this is what I want, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's the benefit of writing it as well.
So true, man. You see, you learn. I don't care how old you get, you can always learn something, man.
Oh,
And
for
thank
sure.
you.
The moment you stop learning is the moment you stop living, right?
Uh, facts on that one. So, Javon, then would you? We've kind of circled through a couple of things, and I want to see
Hmm.
if maybe if we can narrow this down to maybe one or two key steps
Hmm.
that maybe you can share or think of, because I know everyone's probably different in their journey, and I get that.
Right.
But starting out, is there one or two key steps that maybe you can share for someone outside of the writing that we talked about to
Hmm.
help develop or continue to develop their purpose or even change their current mindset?
Yeah. So they kind of go hand in hand, right? So one of the things that everyone has to stop doing is stop the negative self-talk,
Mm.
right? And I say that because the moment you tell yourself no or that you can't, you've already lost.
Yeah.
You've defeated yourself. Like
Mm.
nothing has happened yet. And now you're not going to take action towards it because you don't believe that it's possible. You
Mm-hmm.
have to shift that and start really changing your perspective to believe that it's possible. You have to remember that the computers we're on, the phones we're on, somebody once said that that was impossible. But the
Right.
person that created it was willing to say, hey, I bet my life on this. I will spend as much time as I need to make this thing work. So I know that in my heart this thing could work. I just gotta prove, I just gotta do it. Right. Just gotta
Mm-hmm.
take action no matter how many times I fail. I'm gonna keep going. Right. So that's one. You have to believe and change the way you speak to yourself. The second thing is don't be afraid to fail.
Mm.
Right. You
Okay.
cannot you cannot fear failure,
Right.
right? You cannot fear failure. When you fail, take the lessons learned, like we was talking about earlier, right? And then I'll give an extra one. Number three, right? Number three is don't be afraid to get help,
Mm.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Do not be afraid. Collaborate. So often in our communities, we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to collaborate because it's been
Mm-hmm.
ingrained in us to compete, and it's been ingrained in us that so many people are after us or out to get us.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Man,
not not it. That's not the case. We
that's
really
that.
have to work together and be willing to say, "Hey, I need help."
That's really what you're kind of referring to, that crab in a barrel mentality that we
Yeah,
have, where we're constantly attacking each other and pulling each other down versus we're trying to work to lift each other up.
100%,
Man.
100%. And I want to make a point real quick, name. We have to understand. We as a people have to understand that success is not a finite resource.
Mm-hmm.
Success is so much. You know why? Because we don't all want the same thing,
Right.
right? So if we
True.
collaborate, we can all get what we want.
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand the one resource that you can't replenish is time. So
Mm.
why not collaborate and get help and come together so you can shorten the time that it takes you to ascend to get to where you're trying to go,
Right.
instead of trying to pull each other down or beat each other up or whatever the case may be, right?
Mm.
But that's the mindset shift, because we most of us come from a background where we are raised with a scarcity mentality.
Mm.
We're
Oh,
told not to do certain things. We're told don't go over there because it's not your area. We told you can't have that seat at the table, and we're trained to compete.
yeah.
You got to have the best grades in the class, right? If
Mm.
you're in sports, you're told to do whatever it takes to beat the other team. So
Yep.
we have to reprogram ourselves, deprogram and reprogram. Somebody said that and it sticks to me. I love that. That's what
Man.
we have to do, though.
Man, all I can say is this right here. Bro, you got
Yeah,
you got me like whoa.
thank you,
Because
thank
I'm
you.
sitting here, man. I'm thrown because it's so true, and when you scarcity one is a word I think a lot of us may not be familiar with, but when
Hmm.
you're talking about not really having, and they kind of scare you into believing that
Right.
you have to achieve or be. And your words were, it took me back to my childhood, coming up. Damon, you got to be 110 times better than
Hmm.
your Caucasian classmate, or
Yep.
in sports. You want to go out and destroy the other team, and Damon, you're not competing or you're not performing and all of these things that really lead into our adult lives. But like I said, until you really kind of open up your mind and change your mindset, those things are not
Yeah.
really true.
Right.
There's enough out
Right.
here, like you said, for all of us
Hmm.
if we learn to work together.
Exactly.
Man,
Exactly.
man, that was powerful. And all I'm gonna say is, look, those y'all, I see some of you in the weeds. Thank you for joining us tonight. If you have any comments or don't, or if you just enjoying the conversation, because this brother is dropping some jewels, go ahead, man.
Thank you.
Go ahead down there to the bottom, man. Hit that thumbs up here on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Let us know, because right now we're gonna go pause for the cause. I want to take a second to thank our sponsors here at Two Mics Up. TD3 Insurance, Bubbles and Brews, Philly, Riddick Entertainment. I'm gonna go ahead and run this commercial, and we'll be right back after the break. All right, everybody, we back. Thank you for staying with us. We back out the break here, rocking with my man Jevon Wooden.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Author,
sir.
entrepreneur, live not loathe. And all I can say is, if you join us, thank you. But when this is over, make sure you go back to the beginning. You really missed a lot of jewels and some really great information in the first part of tonight's live conversation here on Two Mics Up. Javon, before we came out of the break, we were talking about some things that really, um, in my opinion, we kind of not only crabs in the barrel, but habits is really, I
Hmm.
guess, the word that I'm looking for. And
Mm.
I want to ask you then, how do you feel our habits impede us uh further or more from having success in our lives?
Man, that's habits will bad habits will destroy you. right?
Mm.
No matter how ambitious you are, no matter how goal setting or goal oriented you are, no matter how whatever you are, habits can destroy your success, and it
Mhm.
can destroy your life, because when you have a bad habit, such as like procrastination or something like that, and it's perpetual, what happens is it starts to creep into other parts of your life that you don't even recognize,
Mm.
right? And
Whoa.
then when you take a bad habit and you just let it fester,
Mhm.
it grows, right? It grows into another bad habit and then another bad habit, right? It's kind of like, for instance, if you're a person that doesn't do the dishes at night, right? You ever know
Mhm.
you just pile up like, oh, I'll do that later. Next thing you know, all your dishes from your cabinets are in the sink, right? It's the same thing with everything, right? If you're
Yep.
unorganized, you put one paper
Mhm.
there. Next thing you know, it's piling up. Every bad habit does that,
Yep.
right? So you really have to focus on getting. I always tell people one thing is to make sure you have what I call a miracle morning, or however early you wake up. You want to make sure that your stations and everything you do on a daily basis runs on a system, right?
Mm.
So you want to make sure that if I journal, my journal should be right next to my bed. If I know I got to work out in the morning, I'm preparing my workout clothes. I'm preparing my pre-workout if I take that. And everything I'm going to work out with that I can, I'm preparing that, right? So you just want to make sure that you reverse those habits, and it's going to take a while. It's going to
Mhm.
take a while to start getting the inverse of those, because what it is there's a habit is like four parts, right? And we got to get that reward part. We got to
Mm.
reward ourselves for doing good instead of rewarding ourselves for
Ref.
doing a bad habit,
Got you.
because
I
that's
got.
what happens. Like, if you have a bad habit of snacking while you're working, well, you're gonna have to cut that. You got to
Yeah.
make sure you're thinking, because a lot of our habits are subconscious. We don't even
Yep.
think because we've been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
So you really have to put yourself, you got to interrupt the loop. It's a
Mm.
habit loop. You got to
Yeah.
interrupt that and make sure you're thinking like, oh, next time I get that snack, I put it a little further away, so I got to actually get up and walk to it, right?
Yeah.
And then disorganized, I got to make sure now I buy a little folder thing or a desk organizer. So now I
Mm.
know when I put that paper in there, what I need to do, because it's
Yeah.
right in front of me. It's not everywhere. So you just have to reform and reformat yourself and really disrupt that thinking, and
Mhm.
get on the positive side, or else you're gonna be in for a long,
You.
long battle trying to get that success.
And it's so true, man. Like all of those things, those habits are terrible,
Yeah,
and
bad habits are terrible.
bad habits are terrible.
Yeah.
And as much as we need technology and all of those things, I swear to a degree it's bad because it just makes us lazy. And
Yes.
don't like you said, I
Yes.
love how you phrased it. It's like a bad loop that
Yeah.
continues to replay itself and recycle. Hey, how you doing, family? It's my family right there. Thank you for joining us. We are enjoying the conversation too.
For
Thank you for
sure.
taking time out to tune in and dropping us a comment. So like I said, yeah. So those
100%.
those habits are bad. And they're really hard to break. And I'm
They
finding
are.
with the pandemic too.
Oh,
Having yeah, right. I don't even need to
pandemic,
say it. Man,
pandemic messed a lot of people up, man.
whoo, goodness gracious! I tell you, when returning to normalcy or whatever semblance of normalcy, man, it's gonna be painful. And I'm only speaking for myself. I don't want to speak for nobody else. It's gonna be
Well, that's why you got
painful.
to start now. You got to start now. Start putting yourself back
Mm.
into that. You can create your own routines, right?
Mm-hmm.
Create your own. And if you know you have a bad habit, like really hone in on that. It's gonna take a
Uh,
while, and you only do one at a time. Don't be trying to
it,
change the whole life at once.
and it's funny
Remember,
you say that.
success is gradual.
Mm,
It's gradual. Everything you do. So
it's
don't
so
put the
true.
pressure on yourself to try to change your life at one point, one
Mm.
moment.
That's facts right there. That's big facts. That's so true. Because we do
Mhm.
all. I don't know if it's human nature. We want to conquer everything at once. Because we feel like if we don't do it now, then maybe we're gonna put it to the side. We won't do it again. You,
Yeah, well, and that, and also, we're in an instant gratification type of
mm,
society,
yeah,
so we want things to happen now, right? It
yeah.
doesn't work that way, right? And if
Mm.
it did happen, you wouldn't be prepared for it because you didn't do the work.
True, and man, that's like so on point because that leads me really to really the next question, and I want to change lanes on your coaching program,
Hmm.
and it's really kind of like a three-part question, and I'm gonna start with the first part.
Okay.
So first of all, I want to start with the title. Tonight's episode titled after your book. which is in your program. And ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned because we're gonna talk about
Yes,
the
sir.
brother book. We're gonna talk about the book. But own your kingdom. Like, where did that again that come from? And what do you mean by own your kingdom?
So owning your kingdom really came from the fact that we are, in my eyes, we're all royalty. We come
Mm,
from the descendants. We just lost it, right?
right.
Somehow we lost that path. We lost our way. We lost the fact that we have all that power. So when I named it "Own Your Kingdom," I was talking about self,
Okay.
right? Your body, your vessel, your mind, all that is a part of your kingdom. And when you own it, that means you're emotionally intelligent,
Mm,
right? No one can make you do anything, right? You know that in your mind, you control that. You control your thoughts. This is the only thing you can control is yourself.
right.
The outcomes you do not control. And when you know that, you stop stressing over things that's out of your control,
Right.
right? So now you focus on your relationships, building your relationships, making those stronger, being intentional about the actions you take, right?
Mm,
Doing things in an authentic way, the things that align with your beliefs and your values that we talked about, forgiving yourself, right?
mm-hmm.
Making sure that you're not holding on to past pains, past mistakes that are really hindering you from going and taking a step further, right?
Right.
Because a lot of us, that's what's stopping us is the trauma, the mistakes and all this that we can't change anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do as a coach is I bring you back. Like we are in the present. That's what you need to focus on. You need to focus on the now. And in order to do that, we have to have a create an action plan. And
Mm,
that action plan for lasting success comes within the program because I give you a lot of exercises, a lot of resources, right? You get a copy of the book, you get a daily planner that I created that actually focuses on self-care because with all this stuff, if you're striving for success and you don't do self-care, you're going to burn out
mm.
and now you're going to go regress. So I make sure that we focus on self-care. You know, a lot of us have no type of self-care routines at all.
None.
So that's another thing. So it's just a bunch in teaching people to become vulnerable. And I want people to get comfortable with that word because if you follow me, you hear it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Vulnerable is not naive,
No.
right?
No.
Vulnerable means that you're open to things occurring, right? You're open to making conversation with people you wouldn't normally speak with. You're
Mm-hmm.
open to going into rooms or places that you wouldn't normally go. That's what we were talking about earlier when you leave your hood and go somewhere
Mm-hmm.
else. And next thing you know, serendipity occurs. And
Right.
serendipity is just opening yourself up to beautiful things that happen that wouldn't happen otherwise. That's what
Man.
I teach in this program, right? If you were thinking about calling a recruiter that you've seen on LinkedIn, but something that fear is stopping you, I'm gonna teach you how to do that. Get over that fear and get out that what if scenario, because the what
Mm.
if scenarios kick your butt, right?
Yeah. You.
You the what ifs really hurt people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also boundary setting. I teach people how to set their boundaries in a healthy way, and not just set them, but actually communicate them. Because if you said anything and you don't say it, you can't. No one's a mind reader. You have to
Right.
actually communicate these things,
Right.
especially in relationships. So all these things you learn communication, communicating effectively. It's a ton of stuff that you pick up in this program, right? I've really,
Mm.
and the way I came up with it was these are things I know I needed that I couldn't find elsewhere, right? I couldn't find one person that really focused on these things.
Right.
And another thing is I definitely couldn't find someone who looked like me,
Mm.
right, to do it and
Mm.
who's gone through those things. So
Right.
that's what made me create it as well.
Man, look. All this here, ladies and gentlemen, y'all is getting all of this right here. So sensational. And the most important thing, man, y'all, like this brother said, you got to be smart. You got to think. And he has really dropped all of these jewels for us here this evening. And like you said, your journey. I got to take a minute before we even get into the book. You gave us some
Yeah,
nuggets
no
about the
problem.
program, but you were just over in Egypt, bruh. And
Yes, sir.
yo, like
Yes,
what
sir.
what was that like, man? Like, did that continue to further validate? Not to say validate, but did that confirm like you're on your path, on your project and your journey? Did that really just like solidify that you're doing the right thing?
Damn, I'm gonna tell you, man. The first sunset that I seen over there,
Mm-hmm.
it was surreal. It took me. I mean, I literally felt like the energy change within me.
Wow.
That's crazy. That's how
Wow.
powerful it was for me to be over there. When I went to temples and all that, and seen the kings and the queens, and heard the history, went to the museum stuff. Man, it not only confirmed and reaffirmed. it took me on another place with this stuff, man.
Wow.
It really opened me up again to
Hmm.
what my purpose was, and it realigned. It said, "Oh, you was thinking too small. It's time. It's
Okay.
go time when you get back. I was thinking too small." You
Okay.
know? So that's why now I'm going. I'm pushing. I'm doing whatever I need to do to make sure I get this message out there. And I hope the listeners really share this, follow me, do whatever, because this is genuine. This isn't some made up stuff. You can check my you can check my history, check
Hmm.
my records. Like anyone who knows me would know that everything I'm saying, it comes from a place that where I've been, and now it comes from a place of where I am and where I'm taking not just me, but I'm taking as many people as I can with me, right?
Man, that's fire, right? And I tell you, like for me, and really researching you, and
Mm-hmm.
really digging into your background and things of that nature. Um, I'm happy to have you on, and
Thank you, thank you,
I appreciate your genuineness because it comes across as such.
thank you.
And we're going to go ahead, man, and continue to support and follow and do, and hopefully we'll all be on board with you moving forward. So, as we come towards the end, I do want to ask you to talk about the book and
Yeah,
really, share with our audience, man, where they can find it, where they can get it,
for
what
sure.
else you poured into the book. Just give us some history on that, man.
Yeah, so the book is right here. It's called "Own Your Kingdom: How to Control Your Mindset So You Can Control Your Destiny." And it really, I started writing this when I was 17. Again, I didn't know, right? All the things I did up until from then to now is in this book, right? It's just I didn't do any research. I promise you. I literally sat there, and everything that came from me, came from my heart, came from my mind, came from my soul is in this book, right? And there's no
Mm,
fluff. It's not a super long book. You can see it, right? This is all. I use it as a workbook. When I get people to use this and read this, I say don't just read it, implement it, because that's what happens. A lot of people, we just read it and throw the book. Oh, that was good. Now
right.
you never took action. So
Hmm.
along the book, there's also a workbook that comes along that's downloadable, and you can fill it on your computer if you want to. And there's a ton of exercises in there. You can write your own mission statement to yourself. Like, what do I want to do? You write a contract to yourself. That's one of the first things you're going to do, because if so many times we don't like putting other people down, but what
Yeah.
about ourselves?
Yeah.
Right? What about ourselves? We okay with putting ourselves down? That
Yeah.
can't be the answer. So I have a contract, and I want people to put it right in front of them every day. They put it on the mirror, whatever it is. So I just really want people to read this and see it for a tool. It's a tool to get you out of where you are now, whatever your circumstances in, good or bad.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter. This is going to take you up another level, right?
Man.
Because those blocks and all that stuff is it's not no going it's not going to stop you anymore. It's not going to stop you anymore. We can no longer let that stop us. We can no longer start telling ourselves that it wasn't meant for us when it is. So
Mm.
that's what this book is, and to get it, you just go to livenotloathe.com. I have a store there. You click the store, or you can go shop.livenotloathe.com, whichever one you choose. But the book is right there, and there's also an ebook version now. It's on Amazon. So check that out
Man.
if you prefer digital.
Whew. Man, look here, ladies and gentlemen, those you in the weeds watching, man, share it because we all know someone that may be in a position of feeling lost or have obstacles in their way. Um, yeah, thank you, Costa. Yeah, a great
Thank
show,
you.
but for sure. Um,
Thank you.
but we don't know where to turn. We all probably know
Hmm.
someone who doesn't know where to turn, where to go. We don't have outlets. We don't know people that have been through what Javon said earlier. People who look like us
Right.
is rare, but people that look like us that are willing to talk about it is
Hmm.
even rarer. So you have an outlet, and share this with your network, and reach out to this brother. Get his book, all of his information. And while we're talking about that, I want to give you a few moments to share your information with our audience before we go, because I want to make sure. they get a hold of you.
for
Uh,
sure.
and if you can't help them, I'm pretty sure you can probably guide them
Oh
or
yeah,
direct them to a place that they can get some assistance. But
a hundred
Javon, before we
percent.
go, please take a few minutes and share, your social media, your website, and everything again with our listeners.
Sure. So social media, everything is Live Not Loathe. You can catch me on IG, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere. Right. So just search for Live Not Loathe and you'll find me, or my name, Jevon Wooden. And you also can go to my website, livenotloathe.com, just like you see on the screen, and everything is on there. So I have courses, programs, my book. I have apparel. You can't see it, but I have my t-shirt on here, right? Own
Okay.
Your Kingdom, How to Control Your Mindset, Control Your Destiny, on the back. So I'm just really trying to make this a movement, right?
Mm,
This is not about me. This is about trying to help people, right?
right.
This is really serious,
Right.
because we 85% of people in the world at some point in time have struggled with self-esteem. What does that
Mm,
mean? Imagine if only 1% of those people operated at their full capacity. And I'm talking to y'all in the
mhm,
audience. If you
yep.
operate at your full capacity, right? Just imagine what's possible. We've seen
Mm,
man go to the moon. So you
oof,
can't tell me sky is the limit.
mm.
So think
You break
about that.
breaking down those barriers, man. And I'm going to go ahead and I want to throw this back in here before I get myself back. I'm going to leave this up here. They can find you IG, Facebook, and Twitter again. Live Not Loathe.
Not
Uh,
low. Yes, sir.
Amazing conversation tonight, Javon. Thank
Thank you.
you so much, man. We will continue to follow you here on Two Mics Up.
Thank you.
We're big fans. Love the work that you're doing. Like I said, we talked over here. I'm proud just to have another brother out here that's doing positive things
I
to
appreciate that.
impact our community, not only here in the states and abroad. And man, I'm not gonna lie. One day, my goal is, if the Lord allows me to get over to Egypt, that is a place that does interest me, and I'd like to
Yes.
go ahead
No,
and just
no. I'm
experience that
telling you.
moment.
I'm telling you, it's surreal. That and watch the sunset over the Nile. You know,
Mm,
it's surreal. And one more place they can find me is YouTube as well. So
mm. Okay.
YouTube, I do videos. I'm starting back up this month actually. So the end of this month, I'll start back on the videos. So you can check that as well. But I
Hmm.
really appreciate your platform, Dame. I appreciate you having me on. I love the work you're doing as well, and let's collaborate in the future. Let's not make
Oh,
this a one-off.
oh no,
Let's do this.
no. He beat me to it because I dropped it. Thank you, Wanda. Thank you. She had someone
Oh,
in
thank
mind to
you,
share this with. And yes, thank you, Javon. We are wishing you continued success. And
thank you.
yeah, this is not a one off, my brother. We gonna continue. We're gonna work behind the scenes. You've been talking to my boss.
Yes,
The
sir.
wife is the boss.
Yes, sir.
But we'll be in touch, and we'll
Okay.
continue to work on some other things and collaborate across platforms because that's what we do here. Two mics up, man, and
Yeah.
and
Yes.
I
100%.
appreciate. Yes, sir. So, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family, two mics up. Another great episode, another great live. Stay tuned, and follow us across on our social media: IG, Facebook, and Twitter at Two Mics Up. Also,
Yes, sir.
YouTube, if you're watching it here, and those of you on the Facebook side, go ahead and get yourself a YouTube account or get over here to YouTube. When you get here, make sure you go ahead down there and hit that subscribe button. And while you at it, go ahead and hit that bell so you can be notified by all the newest content coming to you from Two Mics Up. Also, if you at it, look, leave me a comment. Hit a thumbs up, thumbs down. You like it, you don't. Leave me a comment. Let me know how you feel. Let's keep it real around here. You know what we do. And hey, while I have you, all of y'all, we coming in New Year 2022. Now, anybody out here that's a poet, think they got that fire, they can spit that fire poetry. Well, Two Mics Up is working on something for the new year. We're gonna do a little something. It's going to
Okay.
we're doing something a little. It's gonna look a little something like this right here. If you got
Oh,
that fire,
come back for that one.
hey, if you got that fire, and you can go ahead and you can spit. You want to get more details, hit us up online at www.2micsup.com/contact. In the subject line, let us know you want to spit Poets and Vibes 2022, Two Mics Up. Like we always do at this time, ladies and gentlemen, y'all stay safe, Stay blessed. Mike's out.